Where am I? It smells like old pizza. Who are you?
Like, yeah, man, I'm the shag behind the slaughter. Now, like, I'm gonna do to you what I did to those kids.
What did you do to them?
I'm gonna slice you like a perfectly oversized sandwich.
Wow, if only I knew how to stop William Afton, but I haven't played any of the Five Nights at Freddy's games. Five Nights at Freddy's is a franchise I am familiar with. The series, created by Scott Cawthon, is a very iconic one that popularized the genre of mascot horror. However, I haven't properly played through the games. Still, I am very aware of some of the characters and lore. When FNAF came out, I was close to exiting high school in 2014, but I did watch FNAF game theory videos during my senior year. FNAF wasn't my childhood since I learned about it as a young adult and I didn't play through the games. Still, I am very nostalgic about the FNAF YouTube videos I watched. I feel like I watched Markiplier a bit here and there too, since I was very aware of him as a YouTuber at the time FNAF was starting out.
Was that the bite of 87?
Essentially, FNAF theory videos and a few Let's Plays were the main way I consumed the series. I wasn't disinterested in playing the games, however, my family had one computer at the time and I did not have one of my own. And when I did get a computer of my own, I got a MacBook Pro, which I mainly used for editing since it couldn't play many games, and when it could run Minecraft, it'd be scorching hot. Despite all that, I still respected FNAF as an important gaming franchise despite not having the means to play it. It was always a game I'd think of whenever I went to the fast food restaurant Freddy's with my family on road trips. I'd joke with my younger brother and say, "Hey, we should eat here for 5 nights." While I didn't actively play the games, I still found the animatronic animal characters, pizza place setting, and lore behind it very interesting. So when I heard rumblings of a FNAF movie being in the works, I was excited, especially with Jim Henson's Creature Shop creating the animatronics. Now it's officially out in theaters and on Peacock, and I have some thoughts. The FNAF movie is definitely a movie made for fans of the franchise. It got panned by critics very hard, but as someone who knows a bit about Five Nights at Freddy's, I had a good time watching it. Some reviews I really don't get, like IGN's overall explanation of their 4 out of 10 bad rating, which mentions the film had too much plot and not enough primal security footage thrills. Hello IGN, this is an adaptation. You want security footage thrills? Play the games. The studio, Blumhouse's FNAF, has a bit of that, but not too much, which I honestly think is for the betterment of the film. A film is a different medium than a game, so of course an adaptation is going to be different. It is a faithful adaptation in a lot of places, but there are also some massive changes made too. Creator of the game, Scott Cawthon, co-wrote this movie along with 2 other screenwriters. I feel like the changes definitely were deliberately made to surprise longtime fans. First though, I want to talk about what the film kept intact. The animatronics are dead kids who were clearly killed by William Afton. This is shown in the very beginning of the film in an opening sequence that resembles the Atari-inspired minigames in the old FNAF games. Mike, based on Michael Afton in the games, gets hired as a security guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. The film is full of plot points I recognize, but it's very much a reimagining of the FNAF games. Mike Schmidt is played by Josh Hutcherson, who I remember from the Hunger Games films. He's the man who wants custody of his little sister, who his Karen aunt wants simply for the child support money. He loses his security job at a mall for beating up a man in front of his son. It turns out he got reminded about how he lost his brother Garrett, which is why he punched the man. As a last resort, he is given the job of working as a security guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria by Steve Raglan, a character who is totally not suspicious in any way whatsoever. Josh does a great job playing the character of Mike, who slowly throughout the film discovers that the ghosts of dead children possess these animatronics. The film does this in a creative way by showing the actual children interact with Mike through his reoccurring nightmare where he revisits the day his brother Garrett got taken away by a mysterious figure in a car. Overall, the FNAF movie's portrayal of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy is very interesting. The animatronics clearly are violent in this film as they kill the people Mike's aunt hired who trashed the restaurant.
Was that the bite of 87?
Freddy and his band are violent, like in the games. Despite that though, the film fully embraces the fact that the animatronics are still mentally kids. It's why when Abby meets with the animatronics later in the film, they get along very well and she calls them her friends to Mike. Vanessa, who is inspired by a character who appears much later in the franchise in the game Security Breach, is a policewoman who is very knowledgeable of the animatronics in Pizzeria Way Too Much. One of my favorite scenes in the film is where Mike, Vanessa, and Abby are just chilling in a fort with the animatronic. It's a nice calming moment, and Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy are all just vibing with them, which is really funny given how they murdered people earlier in the film. All throughout the film, she seems very unfazed by the animatronics being there until Abby gets shocked by Bonnie's guitar. This leads to her warning Mike not to bring her back there with a threat of him getting shot. The big threat at the end of the film is that the kids tell Mike they want Abby in return for revealing who killed them and Garrett, that being a man in a yellow bunny suit. Mike says yes, thinking he'll get back to see Garrett, but then realizes he wants to look after his sister Abby and protect her. Mike awakens to see he's going to be put into a suit. He gets injured and passes out, and Vanessa patches him up. Vanessa then reveals she's William Afton's daughter, which is a departure from Security Breach, where she's a follower of Glitchtrap, a digital version of William Afton. William Afton, on the other hand, is not Mike's father like in the original games, but rather the man who killed his younger brother. Honestly, the tail end of the film is fun and enjoyable. Still, it is pretty fast. Besides William being the dad of Vanessa instead of Mike, another change was made where he has brainwashed the animatronics to do his bidding. We learn from the shag behind the slaughter that Vanessa previously assisted him in the past by training security guards. She goes against his wishes to harm Mike, which leads to him stabbing her. Abby puts a crayon drawing she made of Spring Bonnie killing the kids, which convinces them to turn against him. William then gets spring locked, officially becoming Springtrap. He also says his iconic line,
I always come back.
if a second FNAF movie comes out around the same time a Chucky project gets made, I really hope we get an ad of both of them interacting, since that's a catchphrase they both share.
I'll be back. I always come back.
Anyway, Mike ends up having a great relationship with his sister by the end of the film. He thanks an unconscious Vanessa for saving him and his sister's lives. I also love how at the end, Abby has a crayon drawing of them and the animatronics together. It's really cute. We also see that the animatronics have put Springtrap into another room, setting the stage for a potential sequel. Oh yeah, and Corey X Kenshin, who appeared earlier in the film, gets jump scared by Balloon Boy. But yeah, as someone who hasn't played the games, I had a great time. What is neat is that Scott Cawthon let MatPat, along with other early adopters of the game, into the FNAF movie lore. Matthew says his iconic line in the film.
But, you know, it's just a theory.
He plays a waiter at a diner named Ness, which is a reference to Sans' Nest. Scott Cawthon insisted he have that name. Rather than mention a game theory, he shares a food theory, which I find hilarious since that's a side channel of his. Other YouTubers got cameos as employees of the month and got to do vlogs on the film set. Markiplier almost was in the film too, but he was busy with his own movie based on a game, Iron Lung. Besides people like MatPat from back in the day, I recently have learned a lot about the FNAF franchise thanks to my Irish YouTuber buddies Zac and Dylan Doodle, who talk about FNAF a ton. They make a lot of FNAF content, so I highly recommend you check their content out. I'll link their recent FNAF videos in the description. I overall like this film despite it not being the best film in the world. The film isn't super scary and it isn't super violent, but honestly it's for the best. It's a PG-13 movie, which means younger fans of the franchise can enjoy enjoy it. Its tone to me felt right in line with a classic episode of Goosebumps. This will likely be some kids' first horror movie. However, as someone who has known this franchise mostly during my adulthood, I still really like this movie. This adaptation is definitely worth watching if you're a fan of the Five Nights at Freddy's games, or if you're familiar with it enough, like me. The FNAF movie definitely convinced me to give the games a proper try, since I do have a gaming PC now. I own the first FNAF game, and eventually I do want to play through it along with the other games. This has been ShadeX, and I hope you all feel nothing but good vibes.
I'd kill you not for one, but 6 Scooby Snacks, man. Like, you can't be rid of me, man. I always come back.
It's not that. It's not that easy in green. Having to spend each day the color of the leaves. It's not that easy in green. Having to spend each day the color of the leaves.